This video will cover D.1 Human Nutrition of the physiology option. Here are the list of understandings, application, and skills that we will go through in this video. So we'll start basically as what is a nutrient. So a nutrient can be defined as a chemical substance found in food used by the body. So nutrients take all kinds of forms in that you have your fats, which can include cholesterol, your minerals, your carbohydrates, your protein, vitamins. There's all kinds of chemical substances that are used as nutrients in the body. So nutrients can be divided into what's considered essential and non-essential nutrients. So essential nutrients cannot be replaced or synthesized by the body, and so these must be taken in by the diet. So meaning we have to eat these particular nutrients in order to obtain them. Non-essential nutrients are nutrients that can be replaced or synthesized by the body. So they are not necessary in the diet. Our body has mechanisms that can produce these various nutrients, and so if we don't get them in our diet, so be it. So examples of essential nutrients include water, certain minerals such as calcium, iodine, iron, so calcium for our bones, iodine for thyroxine, iron and hemoglobin are considered essential minerals. Some vitamins, such as vitamin C, A, and D, are required as part of our diet. And then there are some amino acids that have to be synthesized or have to be taken in our diet, as we cannot synthesize these particular amino acids. And then some unsaturated fatty acids, so for example the omega-3 fatty acids, are considered an essential nutrient. Now, fiber is also considered essential, and remember, fiber is that cellulose, and cellulose is that cell wall component of our plant cells. So fiber is also considered essential, although it's not actually absorbed as a nutrient in the body. And we'll talk about the importance of fiber later on in this video. So, other than directly in our diet, there are other ways in which we can obtain some of the nutrients that we need. So there are over-the-counter supplements that are available if dietary needs are unable to be met. And this is a multi-billion-dollar industry in North America. So there are the non-essential nutrients, and common sources of non-essential nutrients are things like carbohydrates or sugars, other vitamins and minerals, saturated fatty acids such as cholesterol. Our body can synthesize cholesterol, and then some amino acids such as glutamine, alanine, and tyrosine. So for the amino acids, and for those essential amino acids, of those 20 amino acids, about half are going to be essential in the human diet because they cannot be synthesized. The other half can be made from other simpler nitrogen compounds or other amino acids themselves. So we have here our list of essential amino acids, and then our list of non-essential amino acids. So these are amino acids that can be made within our diet. And then some less common amino acids are included in here, such as selenocysteine and taurine. So the essential amino acids are amino acids that we have to take in our diet. You do not need to know this list of essential amino acids. You do not need to know this list of non-essential amino acids. So non-essential amino acids can be produced from other amino acids, as I mentioned, using enzymes. So in this example, we have the amino acid phenylalanine, which is an essential nutrient. So our body cannot produce this, so this must be taken in the diet. Now there is an enzyme within our cells called phenylalanine hydroxylase that will take phenylalanine and convert this to tyrosine. So the only difference between phenylalanine and a tyrosine is that there is an addition of this hydroxyl group on this phenyl group. So phenylalanine hydroxylase will add this hydroxyl group on. And this hydroxyl group now placed onto this phenyl group is called tyrosine. So this example is going to become important for a condition that we talk about later called phenylketonuria, in which this enzyme is missing, and so this reaction cannot take place. So make sure you remember that name, phenylalanine hydroxylase, which converts phenylalanine to tyrosine. So protein in our diet is very important. A deficiency in protein can lead to several conditions. So one of the consequences of protein deficiency, malnutrition, can lead to a condition referred to as kwashiorkor, which is usually caused by a lack of essential amino acids as a result of extremely low protein intake. So this is basically like the cessation of breastfeeding for one child, and the replacement of diet that offers low protein as a source of energy. So without amino acids unavailable to make proteins, normal cell function, growth, and immunity are going to be affected. Remember, those amino acids go into building all of the proteins that our cells would use for various functions, and so without amino acids available, like, our cells aren't going to be able to function as they should. So symptoms of kwashiorkor will present themselves usually as edema, which is a severe form of swelling, as fluids gather and basically cannot be returned to the blood. And growth may also be stunted, and mental development can also be impaired as well. So the following pictures just show some examples of what kwashiorkor looks like. So you get the edema, the swelling in the feet, you get these bloated bellies as well as a result of that low protein diet. So kwashiorkor tends to be more common in poor countries or those affected by drought, disease, or political unrest, basically where food supplies are going to be very limited. So for essential fatty acids, there are two fatty acids that are considered essential because they cannot be synthesized. So there are the omega-3 fatty acids and omega-6 fatty acids. The omega-3 and omega-6 basically refers to the position of the double bond in the fatty acid. For essential minerals, these are minerals that are needed in small quantities, and we're talking about milligram or microgram quantities. And those minerals are usually going to be found in their ion form. So for example, calcium that we take in our diet is going to be in the calcium 2 plus ion form. Deficiencies in any mineral can be very serious as well. So for example, iodine, which is needed by the thyroid to make thyroxine, and remember, thyroxine is what controls the metabolic rate. Deficiency in iodine can lead to hypothyroidism. To prevent hypothyroidism, iodine is actually added into table salt to prevent iodine deficiency. So you'll typically find iodine in the form of sodium iodide added to that table salt, which is sodium chloride. So if you have a look at your table salt, it will say that it has been iodized, meaning that iodine has been added into it. And in this way, hypothyroidism is easily prevented. In terms of the vitamins are organic compounds and are needed in very small amounts. They generally serve as cofactors, antioxidants, and hormones. So cofactors meaning they are needed or they are used by enzymes to help carry out their reactions. Vitamins can be categorized either as fat-soluble or water-soluble. So water-soluble vitamins must constantly be consumed as any excess is excreted in the sweat and urine. So vitamin C is an example of a water-soluble vitamin where any excess is excreted in the urine. Fat-soluble vitamins can be stored in the body, and excess quantities can be dangerous. For example, vitamin E is a fat-soluble vitamin, and so must be taken in low quantities. Excessive amounts can be dangerous. So a list of examples of water-soluble vitamins and fat-soluble vitamins. You do not need to know these examples. So ascorbic acid, or vitamin C, is essential in some animals. In humans, it's going to be essential. So vitamin C is also referred to as ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid, or vitamin C, is going to be needed to make collagen, which is part of numerous connective tissues such as skin and blood vessels. Most animals and plants can synthesize vitamin C, but some species have lost the ability to synthesize vitamin C due to a mutation in a gene called the GLOW gene, which encodes for the production of the enzyme L-gluconolactone, which is where the GLOW gene stands for. A group of fish, referred to as teleos, guinea pigs, bats, and several primates, which include humans, have lost the ability to synthesize vitamin C. So the animals shown in gray are those that cannot synthesize vitamin C. This deficiency in vitamin C is known as scurvy and can be alleviated by dietary sources. Basically, eating foods rich in vitamin C can help alleviate scurvy. So that vitamin C synthesis pathway is carried out by a number of different enzymes. So remember, any metabolic reaction is going to be a series of small steps in which one product is going to eventually be converted into another useful product. So vitamin C is created in many organisms through a series of small reactions. However, in humans and those various primates and other organisms, a mutation has caused this enzyme to be caused this enzyme to be absent, preventing this last step in this reaction pathway from occurring, which is why vitamin C is an essential vitamin. So you do not need to know these products or these reactants. You do not need to know these enzymes. Only that there is a mutation in this GLOW enzyme that prevents vitamin C from being absorbed. So very quickly, looking at how scurvy can be studied. So given the fact that scurvy is a result of vitamin C deficiency, for a while scientists were trying to study scurvy in organisms such as mice and rats. But as best as they tried, these organisms would not develop scurvy. And this is because even though you may deprive a mouse or a rat of vitamin C in its diet, it's still able to produce vitamin C, or ascorbic acid, and will actually not develop scurvy. So to study scurvy, people will use guinea pigs as they present a good model for studying this disease. Absence of vitamin C in their diet will lead to a similar condition seen in humans. So it makes it a useful model for studying scurvy. So appetite control now is basically controlled in an area located in the hypothalamus. So if you're hungry, as the stomach empties, it will release a hormone called ghrelin. This will stimulate the appetite center, which is located in the hypothalamus. This creates a wish to feed. It creates this idea that you need to eat. If you are full, basically another hormone, this PYY3 to 36, is released from the pancreas and upper intestines. This hormone will suppress the appetite center and will create this feeling of being full. If you've eaten too much, excess food can be stored as fat. The current scientific belief is that the number of fat cells does not change significantly. So therefore, as fat cells fill up, the lipid cells will secrete leptin, and this will suppress the appetite center. As the cells shrink, they will release less leptin, and this will not inhibit that appetite center anymore. So this diagram just goes through how these different hormones of ghrelin and the hormone PYY act on that appetite center in the brain. So if we have this person's brain kind of magnified, here's the region of the hypothalamus. And in the hypothalamus, you have that appetite control center. So you have a stimulatory center telling you to eat, and an inhibitory center telling you not to eat. So in the stomach, you have that hormone ghrelin, which gets released. And remember, a hormone is going to be produced in one part of the body and act in another part of the body. So in this case, that hormone ghrelin is going to be produced and released from the stomach, travels to the hypothalamus, where it acts on the stimulatory center to tell you to eat. It will activate that stimulatory center. Now, when you're full, that hormone PYY will be released from the small intestines, will travel to the hypothalamus, and will turn off that stimulatory center, basically turning on that inhibitory part of it, telling you not to eat, so telling you to fast. Now, that hormone leptin produced by fat cells is also going to act on that inhibitory center, basically when those fat cells are full, telling you that you have enough to eat. So now there are situations where this stimulatory center and inhibitory center, the control of that kind of gets out of whack, and you get conditions now of being overweight, where too many nutrients have been consumed. So there are two main consequences of being overweight. They are diabetes and hypertension. So weight gain can cause the release of several hormones, as well as changes in the physiology and anatomy, which can lead to hypertension, such as a higher cardiac output, which raises blood pressure. High blood pressure is bad. An increase in vascular resistance, which also increases blood pressure. And it can result in the arteries becoming stiffer and more narrow, also raising blood pressure. So type 2 diabetes is one of the consequences of being overweight. So remember, type 2 diabetes is going to be that insulin resistance that develops. So insulin is still being produced, but those insulin receptors become less sensitive to insulin in the blood. So this is basically going to be caused by prolonged excessive intake of high energy foods, particularly sugars and carbohydrates. There is a strong link to obesity, as that extra energy is going to be stored as fat. And then there can be genetic predispositions to type 2 diabetes as well. The symptoms of type 2 diabetes can include glucose in the urine, as too much glucose in the blood is basically going to be filtered out at high rates by the kidney, and so it ends up in the urine. As a result, people feel dehydrated because of this excessive urination. And as a result, thirst or frequent or high levels of thirst is going to be a symptom as well. These high levels of glucose can also damage blood vessels, and another symptom can basically be weight loss and tiredness and blurred vision as well. So just a reminder that diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, can be a result of the fact that you are still getting insulin production, but your cells, especially like your liver cells, are not responding to that insulin. So you do not get uptake of that glucose, and so glucose levels in the blood remain elevated and remain high as a result. On the opposite end of eating too much, there can be effects or negative effects due to starvation. So a severe lack of intake of essential and non-essential nutrients is what's considered starvation. And in the absence of dietary intake of energy sources, the body will first access those glycogen stores in the liver, and then once those are depleted, this can be followed by breaking down muscle tissue and even cardiac tissue as well. So anorexia is one form of starvation. This is a psychiatric illness, which its causes are going to be complex. So there's a number of factors which contribute to anorexia. But basically, at the heart of it, it will result in voluntary starvation and a loss of body mass. The body will begin to break down the body's muscles, resulting in a loss of strength. Symptoms can include hair falling out, dry skin, easy bruising, fine hair growth, a drop in blood pressure, poor circulation, a loss of menstrual period, and heart muscle can deteriorate as well. So genetic condition that can lead to conditions of malnutrition include one called fetal ketonuria, which is short for PKU, or PKU is short for this. This is basically an inherited, genetic, progressive, and degenerative disease. The disorder is autosomal, meaning it's genetic. So there is a base substitution mutation on chromosome 12 on the gene that codes for the enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase. This will basically result in the inability to process phenylalanine into the amino acid tyrosine. Phenylalanine will build up in the blood and can even cross the blood-brain barrier, leading to issues with mental development. Now, in Canada and hospitals around the world, all newborn babies are automatically tested for this genetic condition. Basically, they'll take a sample of blood at birth and test for this condition. Treatment can begin right away so that symptoms do not develop. So basically, blood phenylalanine levels are going to be kept within normal levels. Remember, phenylalanine is an essential amino acid. So by keeping its levels low in the diet, you can avoid any complications due to this condition. So right now there is no cure. The treatment consists of a strict low phenylalanine diet. So no dairy, no meat, no breast milk, no nuts, and no aspartame. Basically, like no protein. You're controlled. You have controlled amounts of protein that you ingest to keep those phenylalanine levels low. Medication-based treatments are being worked on, and that are hoped to be able to break down phenylalanine, but these have yet to be used in a clinical setting. So another deficiency is vitamin D deficiency, which we've talked about a little. We talked about vitamin C deficiency, but vitamin D deficiency is another deficiency that can be potentially detrimental. So vitamin D is synthesized by the skin when light between 290 and 310 nanometers strikes the skin. Basically, sunlight is going to promote the production of vitamin D. Vitamin D is also known as the sunshine vitamin. If there isn't sun or time spent outdoors or vitamin D in the diet, then deficiency can occur. So especially in these northern climates where days are short and sunlight is limited, low levels of vitamin D can happen in an individual. And vitamin D is important for calcium absorption in the intestines. Dietary sources now these days include oily fish, eggs, liver, margarine, and milk. So milk gets fortified with vitamin D, which helps ensure that we don't experience any vitamin D deficiencies. So cholesterol levels, if cholesterol levels in the blood are too high, this can and has been linked to heart disease to some extent. So remember that cholesterol is required for cell membrane structure and steroid synthesis, but very little cholesterol actually comes from the diet. Most of that cholesterol is synthesized within our bodies. High cholesterol diets can lead to atherosclerosis, which is basically the deposition of fatty plaques and hardening of the arteries. However, the risks are increased when high levels of saturated fats are combined with high cholesterol in the diet. High levels of saturated fat can also cause atherosclerosis, but will also raise LDL levels, those low-density lipoprotein levels, which help retain cholesterol in the body. Reducing dietary cholesterol levels will only be effective in lowering the risk of coronary heart disease if it is combined with lower levels of saturated fats as part of a balanced diet. In a review of studies, it has been suggested that the link between dietary cholesterol intake and coronary heart disease is not logical, and that the more likely cause of coronary heart disease is a diet high in saturated fats. Diets high in saturated fats tend to be high in cholesterol as well. So there is correlation without necessarily causation. With moderate cholesterol intake, the body is able to remove excess cholesterol with no harmful effect. Dietary cholesterol is not necessarily converted into plasma cholesterol, and plasma cholesterol can be HDL, which is not harmful, or LDL, which is the plaque-forming cholesterol, or the harmful form of cholesterol. Extreme intakes may lead to greater buildup of LDL and atherosclerosis. Although there is a small risk of cholesterol leading to coronary heart disease, the risk of smoking, inactivity, and hereditary factors are much stronger and more closely related to coronary heart disease. Although a cholesterol-controlled diet may slow or reduce the risk of atherosclerosis, it must be combined with a healthy diet and lifestyle if it is to have a significant effect on reducing the risk of coronary heart disease. And the last little bit deals with calorimetry. So ultimately, when determining the energy content of a substance, calorimetry is a process in which that is used. So calorimetry basically involves a vessel here that is going to be filled with water. In this vessel is going to be a food sample separated from that water. That food sample is going to be ignited and burned, and basically as that food sample burns, it's going to give off heat. That heat is going to cause an increase in temperature in the water, and that temperature is measured, and that change in temperature is used to determine the energy content of a food substance. So more information about calorimetry can be found at this following website or in your textbook. So that is the end of this video for D.1 Human Nutrition.